Hi, my name is Tammy,
And I'm Jen.
and they call us Woo. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about different ways that we can help clear our energy, clear our spaces. A lot of people hear about different things you can do to clear or neutralize any more negative energies, bring positive into your life, all that other fun stuff. Specifically, we'll be talking a little bit more about sage and smudging and some of the, I guess, backstory behind some of that, how it's used, why people use it. I think a lot more people are um, using sage and they might not for this purpose and they might not necessarily understand where it came from, or there's a certain amount of respect we can put into the process by understanding more of it. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. um, I am going to let you kick it off, Jen, because you can give us a little bit of background on what you know about some smudging practices and stuff like that.
Perfect. Thanks. That was very abrupt for me. I don't know why.
It's all good.
Um, so I want to start off with I have been using smudging and clearing in my practices for probably 15, 20 years now. And I have learned from multiple sources of teachers. So I've had teachers in different Native American tribes. I've had different teachers who are shaman. I've had friends who use smudging and clearing practices that they've taught me. So when I'm doing any type of clearing ceremony or doing any type of clearing on myself, I'm pulling from multiple different traditions and multiple different sources of knowledge when
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating that ceremony for myself. Um, I've talked to a lot of people about, Tammy and I talked about this a little bit before we started recording about the aspect of cultural appropriation. And we talked a little bit about different traditions and how people use things differently. And there are some traditions that don't believe that you should pass that knowledge to somebody who is outside of the tribe or outside of their specific community.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to put that out there and make sure that everybody knows that we're trying to be respectful of the information that we're passing along. That's important to me, to honor people and their traditions, but also honor the herbs and honor the sacredness of Mother Earth. My traditions are honoring the herbs and honoring their
Mm-hmm.
uses. So one of the things I've talked about before in my channeling practice, I have one of my guides who is of Native American shaman descent. And when he speaks, he often speaks to me about how Mother Earth has gifted us with these things to use to create wholeness and balance within ourselves and within our environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for us to have the knowledge and not utilize the knowledge and not utilize the gifts that we have been given by the
Right.
earth, by our environment, he has talked to me about how that can be disrespectful as well. So,
It's
take the
all in
information as
perspective.
you will. Yeah, take the information as you will. The only thing that I would urge people, if you are going to start a sacred smudging practice or a sacred clearing practice, make sure that you understand your intentions behind it and make sure that you're doing everything from a space of a loving heart
Mm-hmm.
and of honor and respect.
Right.
Um, so that is all to start. Um, I typically will use sage and sweetgrass for most of my clearing, as well as Palo Santo, which I have all of these things next to me. I have different forms of sage, but I only have a couple of them next to me for some reason. Um, I have a whole bin, you guys. I have bins of stuff everywhere. So most people, when they're talking about saging or smudging, most people think that using sage is what smudging is. Smudging is actually the practice of clearing. And it's typically, my understanding is that smudging is the term that's used in Native American traditions. Otherwise, it's called other things in other traditions.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I have some white sage. This is just loose white sage. I also have I have a different type of sage that's in a bundle. But so this is actually a blue sage bundle. Like I said, there's different types of sage. So I have desert sage and blue sage and California white sage and then South Dakota sage.
So if anyone is listening and is curious about some of the different types of sage, and you're not able to, you know, look at the YouTube channel or whatever, please feel free to comment too.
Yeah.
And we can talk a little bit more about where some of these come from. I always think it's super interesting how different they smell depending on where they come
Yes.
from. Desert
Yeah.
sage smells wonderful and I love it.
Yes.
And it's so much different. Like the sage that we have in the Midwest smells, when I use it, it smells like I might have been smoking a particular substance that may or may not be
Yep.
legal.
Yep. A landlord in my old office building would come in often and say, people are asking if you guys are doing pot.
Right.
He's like, I told them that you were smudging. And I was like, that is true. We were not
well trained.
Yes.
So
we had to do that after hours.
It does smell different, and I feel like the stuff that I've gotten from the desert people have brought back for me has that really like spicy, you know, like that deeper smell to it, and it looks different and stuff too, which I really yep, okay.
I totally just said, I know that this is going to come across weird. So when I said that we had to do it after hours, I was talking about smudging. I was not saying that we were doing drugs after hours at the shop.
This podcast just got spicy.
Good gosh. I did not mean it to sound like that, you guys. I have never smoked pot in my life, just so you all know. So, yeah. I was talking about smudging.
I refrain from commenting on that. But regardless, YouTube is so going to be like, no, guys.
Yep.
Anyway.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, I like that there's a different variety of stuff too. And I guess in my learning about all of this, the first thing I learned about a lot of these different things you can do for your energy is, if you are using your intuition, it's probably not wrong. So I kind of like having a variety where I can be like, okay, I feel like doing this one today. This one keeps calling me, whatever. But the desert sage smells like, it smells like a hippie New Mexico den to me. I just love it. Like you just walk in like, it smells beautiful in here.
See, for me, it's like much more earthy, like much more, like it's a different, deeper earthiness to me. Like it brings me much deeper into my grounding and balancing when I use it.
Okay.
I love that. That is my favorite sage of all of them.
I had someone who visited New Mexico to work on earth ships, which is a whole other cool thing that you should look up sometime if you don't know what those are. Just was getting a bunch of it that was just growing everywhere, and she brought back all of this sage for me, and I just loved it because it's just like it's just everywhere. It's just free there. It's amazing.
Lovely,
right? I have a stash for a little while. Also, I got more when I was in Sedona. I don't know how long it's going to take me to burn all the stuff that I have, but probably a while.
Well, come over
Have
here.
mega bundles. There you go. Anyway, proceed, please, with your explanation about the sages.
Well, so there's the desert sage, which we just talked about, and then there's blue sage, which has kind of the same texture, because there's different textures in the different, like when you get California sage, it's more leaves in the bundles, and when you get desert sage and blue sage, like anybody who's watching, you can see there's like more sticks inside. That's the way that I've seen them wrapped in all of them. I mean, there's definitely the stems in the California sage too, but the leaves are bigger. Unless you're getting like Midwest sages, like South Dakota sage that I have, a lot of those are the leaves are much smaller too, and it depends on when you harvest them as well. So there's different harvesting practices. Um, but the leaves are just very different. So some people prefer to use the California sage because it's easier to crumble and like use
Mm.
in some type of burning bowl or an abalone shell or a lion's paw shell. Whereas the other ones, some people will leave them in the bundles and burn them in the bundles,
Mm-hmm.
which is a whole nother thing. Some traditions say that you can't do that. Some traditions say that you should do that.
Interesting.
Um, and there's a whole lot of theory behind that as well, which I could get into if you want me to.
Well, I would like to talk a little bit. You mentioned abalone shells,
Mhm.
um, which I I guess I see more of that. But do you want to talk a little bit about specifically what the shell means? And generally speaking, there's feathers involved too. Do you want to talk a little bit
Oh,
about that?
yes, I don't have my smudging fan over here to show on camera. Um, so I'll talk about the abalone shells first and the lion's paw shells. So the lion's paw shell is too far away for me to grab while I'm attached to my computer with my headphones. But the shells are actually used as a container. So um, they bring an extra source of energy into your ceremony. So some traditions, again, every tradition is different. Some traditions say that you shouldn't use a shell because the shell actually brings the element of water. It brings a flowiness into your clearing practice. So the water comes through and washes away any of the energies that are forming, any of the energies that are being cleared. And it can also clear the energy of the herbs as you place them into the shell. Um, so a lot of the time, it's really important that you have clear intentions and you have cleared yourself and you are using these herbs in a pure form um, to help clear yourself and clear your surroundings. Well, the shell will actually act as if it's washing your herbs before you start your clearing process in some traditions. In other traditions, they say that you shouldn't use the shell because of the water element. You are clearing away some of the energies that the herbs are bringing forward.
Mm,
And so you're commingling things that they don't believe you should be commingling. So
okay.
check with your intuition, check
Mm-hmm.
with your traditional knowledge, and see where you fall on that spectrum. Um, I love to use the abalone shell. It feels like um, I'm getting much more balance with my grounding when I use that because you are using the smoke and the elements to the smoke will draw up the energies to the ethers so that they can be cleared by the ancestors, they can be cleared by your guides, they can be cleared by the etheric realm.
Mm-hmm.
Um and the element of water is clearing things from a water space, from a more flowy space, allowing for more movement. Same with the herbs are bringing in the element of earth as well, so you're getting more of the elements into your ceremony
Mm-hmm.
um
Well,
than
that
if
would
you're
be like
just
all the elements: water, earth, fire, wind, air.
wind. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm, that's cool.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what's interesting too is I actually gravitate more towards the bundles. That it
Mhm.
feels more comfortable and better to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I guess using the shell, I don't know if it's just personal preference, but it feels a little more awkward to me where I liked I guess I like using the bundles a little more.
Yeah.
Um so do you want to talk a little bit about I've learned some things about certain tribes of the area anyway, and the more traditional ways to wrap sage bundles,
Mhm.
like different times of day that they harvest using a specific color of string. Like there's meaning behind all of those things. Do you know much about some of those
If you have
things?
that knowledge, I will have you talk about that.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of that knowledge because I didn't talk about the harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
I learned more about the ceremony and the tradition of clearing. from the people that I was working with, just because we weren't in areas where we would actually be doing a lot of the harvesting ourselves.
Okay.
Um, so if you have that knowledge, I would love for you to share.
So I will say this is secondhand knowledge. I got this information from an herbalist who learned from a tribe member. Um, but there is, I guess, traditional methods specific to that tribe where you harvest at certain times of the day. A lot of times, harvesting at night with the moon's energy is a significant piece of that. Um, and then you use a red cloth, and honestly I'm not sure what the red is for. I would have to go back and talk to her again. I know she told me, but I don't want to misquote her.
Yeah.
But you specifically use a red cloth when you're harvesting, so your hand is covered by this red cloth when you pick it, and then you wrap it in red string, and there's significance to the color of the string and
Hmm.
what it does to, which I also think is interesting because everything I've gotten locally has the red string, and things I've gotten from like California and stuff like that tend to have the white string.
Hmm.
So I always thought that was kind of interesting too, like how many different traditions interplay in this
Yeah.
in different ways, like how even though we think of smudging as a Native American tradition, understanding that there's so many different tribes that have their own traditions, that
Yeah.
there's a lot of different thought processes around it.
Yeah. Well, and I know that a lot of the time, if we're looking at tribes and their traditions, even within the traditions locally that I've talked to people about, if you look at the medicine wheel, which is a wheel of life that um, there's a lot of interplay with um, unbalance. If we are in one area of the medicine wheel, that means that we're um, not functioning well in a different part of the medicine wheel. And the traditions are meant to bring you back to centeredness within the wheel. But those wheels are made up of different colors, and there's usually like black, white, red, and yellow within those wheels. Um, but the colors mean different things in different traditions and different tribes.
Mhm.
And so every time I've seen a medicine wheel, I'm like, oh, I know this one. And then I'm like, no, I don't know this one. That is a different color for a different direction. Like they use cardinal directions, and that has different animals tied to it, and that has different so
See, and the
so the
medicine
red.
wheel I have at work that I got from
Mhm.
Sedona doesn't have all the colors on it. It's just
Yeah.
white with
Yeah.
brown feathers.
Yeah, so it's different traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the red might mean something different in that specific tradition that she was taught.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where it might mean the sacred road of life in one, it might mean a specific direction in another.
Mm-hmm.
So like the rising of the sun or the setting of the sun, it might mean one of those two things, or it might, like I said, it might mean the red road of life. Um,
I do think
but
we should explain the medicine wheel a little bit for people who are unfamiliar. So, a
Mhm.
lot of times people are very familiar with dream catchers.
Mhm.
Most people know what that looks like.
Yep.
It's the circular, I guess it can be made out of sticks or fabric or whatever, but you have a circle and then the interwoven strings in the middle that tend to look like spider webs, kind of. So
Mhm.
a lot of people are very familiar with dream catchers. Medicine wheels, they can be a lot of different things. Like one that I have is very much looks like the same size as what you'd expect, maybe like a dream catcher that you hang on your bed or whatever. Um, but it has, instead of all the interwoven strings, it's got like a plus sign in the middle of it, basically. A line going straight up and down, a line going from left to right, and then it's got some feathers and stuff on it. So that's kind of what it looks like.
Yep.
um
So it has four quadrants within it that
Correct. Yes.
correspond typically to the directions, the four cardinal directions,
Right. North, south, east,
and four
west.
seasons.
Right.
Yes.
And then when we were in Sedona, we had the opportunity to go to course, I'm forgetting the name of the park right now, but it's this really cool meditation park that's there that has some elements of Buddhism in it. It's basically just for the purpose of being able to have, walk through the sacred space in the desert and have quiet, have meditation, have thoughtfulness. But within that, they had a local man make a large walkable medicine wheel. So there is ones that you can actually walk as well. It's the medicine wheel is just the shape, idea, and elements of north, south, east, west, seasons, kind of the
Yep.
circle and balance of life where everything comes full circle.
Yep.
But it can be something large that's made out of stones. It can be
Yep.
something you hang. It can be a lot of different things. But I just want to explain that a little bit more because I feel like a lot of people know a lot more about dream catchers than they do about medicine wheels.
Yes.
So
I don't
anyway.
remember why we started talking about medicine wheels. I think we were talking about colors. We were talking about colors.
There we go.
Yes. Because you were explaining the harvesting process.
Yes. Yes. So that was really the only information that I was going to share about it. But I just thought it was interesting. And I would love, if anybody knows a little more in depth about the significance of that color red for that specific herb, for using that herb, that would be cool to find out. If anyone wants to comment about that, it would be lovely to have people on the show at some point too who can talk a little bit about their own traditions. We're working on that.
I have a whole bunch of people in my head right now that I was like, oh, I should reach out to them to come talk. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit more about different types of sages, and I will say you did bring up the whole Midwest sage and the scent of that, and it is much stronger, and I've found that Midwest sage actually gives off a lot more smoke than like a desert sage or the blue sage would.
I feel like the Midwest sage is a lot like juicier is not the right word, but it's like it's more like a regular leaf that you'd see on a tree versus I think like the desert sage seems like it's just, it doesn't hold on to as much of the liquid and stuff. It's drier right off the bat. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's just what it seems like to me.
I've never thought about it being
because you think
before.
About
that's
I know
weird.
That's a weird word. Sorry. But you think about when you're burning like a fresh twig versus something that's more thoroughly dried. It perhaps that's the reason some of the smoke. That is pure speculation. I could be 100% wrong on that.
Well, I wonder if that's because being in the Midwest, we're getting things that have not been dried as long. Because we're getting them straight from right around in the area.
Or just the much wetter climate period.
Yeah.
I
am so glad you did not use the M word and you used wet instead.
You only use the M word when you're talking about cake and bread.
Yes.
You don't use it for anything else.
Yes. And if you guys don't know what the M word is, you're going to have to figure it out because I ain't saying it.
Get so many comments like just with that word. I know we are.
Yes. Yes, anyway. I know. Ugh, yuck. I was not expecting that word to come up.
I don't think juicier was any better.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just gonna write down juicy sage, just because I just need to remember that. Yeah. So,
come to the Midwest
as far as
juicy sage. Sorry.
Ew.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tammy.
All right. Sorry, we'll go back to
so
the
off track now. I have no idea where I'm going with this conversation anymore.
Okay.
Oh, I know where I was going to go. Actually, because you talked about burning in the actual bundle. And for those who can't see, I'm holding up a bundle right now. It's just like a stick of, well, it's a whole bunch of different sprigs or sticks of certain type of sage. Like I said, this is blue sage that's tied together in a bundle that's about 1.5 inches thick and about 4 inches long. This one is. But when I was taught, 2 of the traditions that I was taught in, Um, they specifically talked about how they don't use sage in a bundle. They don't burn in the bundle because when you are using it, you light the end and the smoke comes out, and the smoke is bringing the energy up to be cleared. But smoke also goes into your bundle.
Oh.
Um, so you're getting this airflow that goes through the bundle back and forth. And so if you're clearing energies and you're setting the intention for that energy to be brought up to the ethers and cleared, a certain percentage of that energy is coming back through your bundle. If you don't burn that whole bundle, you now have that energy stuck within the bundle.
Hmm.
Um, so again, it's a traditional thing. Some people believe that you shouldn't burn in the bundle. I do both because I've been trained in both things, but I am very intentional about when I do use my bundle and I burn specifically in the bundle, the next time I use it, I set the intention that any energy that was residual from the last time I burned, that energy is cleared right off the bat and that we're not burning that back into the space.
So it all
That's
comes
just my
back to
practice.
intention and
Yeah,
how you come to it.
yeah, yeah.
Which, you know, and explaining it a little further for people who still might be like, okay, what is this idea of energies and, you know, all the stuff you're doing? Really, the whole practice of it is to be able to, it's cleansing like a bath. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've ever witnessed the more of like the bathing that some people do with it, where they're literally like taking it from the
Mhm.
bowl, taking the
Yep.
smoke with their hands and putting it down over their head, all over their body. They're literally like washing themselves with it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that idea is like we're clearing ourselves. So generally speaking, you do want to clear yourself before you start clearing other things, because if you're just a bundle of crazy
Mess.
energy
Mhm.
and you are trying to clear the room, there's a good chance that it's not going to work out quite as well as you had hoped, because you haven't put yourself in the right frame of mind first, and you haven't kind of gotten all of that off you first.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can even just do it for yourself, but
Yeah.
generally when I'm doing my smudging practices, it's to help clear the space that I'm into.
Yeah.
um when you are sensitive to the energies around you, sometimes just having that clear space can feel like a huge breath of fresh air,
Yeah.
which I do at work, I do at home. I just do it when I feel like I need it. I guess I don't have a specific, like, I do it these days or nothing like that. It's just when it occurs to me that that would be helpful, I do it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so generally, you clear yourself. When we're talking about clearing, you are cleansing your energy. That's the main piece of it, is all of the stuff that's kind of attached to you, um, that maybe you don't want on you anymore. You're clearing, you're
Mhm.
neutralizing that. But also, it's interesting, I've actually read articles about there being some scientific research done on how it actually physically cleans um, particles out of the air too. Toxins, not the right word. Like bacteria, viruses, that it can clean for. I think it was 93% of some of those floating particles,
Mhm.
for up to 3 days. Just depends on the situation. I'm sure there's a lot of variables with that, but I thought that was pretty interesting too, because there's more than one method to this madness. It's cleaning
Yeah.
your energy, but it's also physically cleaning the air. There's a reason that we feel so good when we do it. Um, I know a lot of people talk about too, about making sure that you're cleaning specific areas. So like when you're smudging at home, at work, or whatever, going around windows, going around doors, stuff like that. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Of course. Um, so first I want to talk about, you brought up the smoke bathing,
Mm-hmm.
and I have something that was taught to me a long time ago that I just love. Because one of the practices is you burn your sage or your herbs in the bowl in front of you, and then you cup your hands and you bring it up over your head.
Mm-hmm.
and then down, and you wash like every part of you. But the tradition that I was taught, the information that I know is you're clearing your crown chakras and your brain so that you may receive information in its purest form.
Mm.
You're clearing over your eyes so that you may see truth and clarity in the world around you. You're smudging over your ears so that you may hear more clearly and you may listen to others speak. And you're clearing over your mouth so that you may speak only truth and kindness into the world. And then you go over your throat so that you may make sure that you are speaking your own truth and you're sharing that with the world. And like, so there's a way that you're clearing when you are bathing yourself in that smoke. You're
Mm-hmm.
clearing every aspect of yourself, every part of your body with very strong intention about what that means for you. So it's very intentional work.
Mm-hmm.
It's making sure that you are being present with everything that you're doing and how you're clearing yourself.
Sure.
And it's just a really beautiful practice
It
to
is.
use.
There's so many
And
ways you're connected. You're connected to yourself. You're reconnecting all the pieces and elements of yourself. You're reconnecting to your space.
mhm,
Um, you're reconnecting to the earth by
yeah,
utilizing some of the resources and gifts from the earth. There's a lot
yeah,
of calming that comes with pulling yourself back down into this connection with
yeah.
everything again.
Yeah, yeah. And then looking at like doors and windows and mirrors and water sources in the house, those are the things that I usually touch on with people when I'm teaching them how to clear their homes. Um, Windows and doors and mirrors are all ways that energy can be allowed into and out of your home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are clearing your space, one, you want to open a window because you want to allow that energy out of your home. You want free flow of energy. So you want to be able to shift things out so that it can be transmuted. You don't want it to be trapped in your house. So if we're allowing the smoke to pick up and transport any of that energy that we're clearing to the ethers, to the ancestors, to whomever you are releasing it to be transmuted, you don't want it to go up and get stuck in your house. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so opening doors, opening windows allows it to go out so that it can be transported up and cleared. Um,
And the
but
transmuted, I was just gonna clarify for people who haven't
okay,
heard that.
so transmuting is where you are collecting the energy and then it is being taken somewhere so that it can be um, broken down and reused in its purest form.
It's energy
So,
recycling.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Um, so when you are clearing around your doors and your windows, one, like I said, important that you're allowing the energy out,
Mm-hmm.
but clearing around the windows is clearing any way that energy could be coming into your space.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure that that is a um, energetically clear and safe space for energy to flow. Same with mirrors. Mirrors are a portal to other etheric realms, other dimensions, other planes of existence. And I just threw a whole bunch of words out there that people might not know. Um, sorry, everybody. Um, Other places. So other energies can come in through mirrors. So it's important to clear your mirrors as well. Same with water sources. So I always tell people any drain, any pipe, any faucet that you have in your home, you want to make sure they're cleared because water is flow. Water carries energy. Water carries movement through your home. You want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that that's clear so that there's no stagnation, there's nothing stuck there, and it's not transporting low vibrational or perceived negative energy through that space.
Right.
Um, and then doors, same as windows. It's an area where energies can walk through it, but people also walk through them. So you want to make sure that those doors aren't collecting the energy of everybody who's walking through and then passing it on to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
So clearing those.
Or you
The
could just like
other
physically be like, you're bringing bad energy into my space.
Yeah. Get out.
I'm going to smudge you out of this house.
Smudge you. Like, I'm going to start saying that to people. Smudge you. The other thing that I usually tell people to clear is the corners. Mm-hmm. So corners and high points and low points in your home will collect more energies. So when you're going around and you're clearing a room, making sure that you're getting each one of the corners of the room, to make sure that there's no pooling of energies there. Just like if you have like a packet of food. I was going to say tuna, and then I was like, people might be like, gross packets of tuna, but I'm going to use it because it's easy. And I was feeding my cats tuna out of a packet this morning. Usually there's little bits of food that are stuck in the corners of those packages. It's same with like a cereal pack. There's always one little Cheerio that's stuck in the bottom corner of the bag and you can't get it out. It's the same with energy in the corners of your home. The energy will collect there. And if you're not intentional about clearing those energy pockets, you're going to have these little teeny tiny spots of energy in your home that have never been cleared. So again, being intentional and knowing like where the energy usually flows to so that you can clear that energy out of your space is going to be really, really beneficial for you in the future, because you're not going to be constantly chasing around this energy that's just stuck in one little spot in your house.
So, what would your recommendation be for if people want to purchase sage to use in their own home, how to find a good quality source for it, or what to do with it when you get it to make sure that it is, what you want it's doing what you want it to do?
Yeah. So if you know somebody that handpicks their own, I would go and talk to them first. I mean, that would always be the first person I would reach out to. If you know somebody who is in a community that uses sage and smudging, so if you know somebody who's a tribal member, you could reach out to them. Just know that some traditions, they're not going to share those resources with you if you're not part of that community, because it is part of their tradition. So being respectful, make sure you're being respectful when you're asking about it. If you don't know somebody that is handpicking it themselves, I would say look at your local metaphysical shops. So shops that are selling crystals and other herbs and like different types of occult books or metaphysical books. Some of those shops will carry smudges and sages and different herbs. So going and talking to them about how they source those things, find out if they know where they came from.
Yes.
If they don't know where they came from, you can intuit if that's a good product for you. Sometimes you're going to find products that you don't know where they came from. Sometimes you're going to find products that you're not sure like how it was sourced. And that's not to say that you can't ever use those products. Just sit there and tap into the energy of that product.
Right.
Like ask yourself, do I feel good about using this? If you don't feel good about using it, don't use it. If you're like, okay, yeah, I feel like this is a good fit for me. At a vibrational level, at a frequency level, at an energetic level, then it's a good fit for you. Like, if
I
you
think
feel
it's
good
part
about
of the
it,
respect of the process too, respecting yourself and respecting the traditions that came before you by putting some thought into it. I think it's wonderful that we're all learning all of these great things. The world is becoming it's becoming smaller. We're becoming more connected to all of these traditions that we may or may not have been able to connect with before. And respecting and understanding where it came from and how to use these things in a way that feels good for yourself and for the universe and for those that came before you with that tradition, I think is always going to be your best option, especially as we're talking about making sure that you are respecting the people with these traditions, because obviously if you are just, buying some of this stuff without really knowing or understanding where it came from, is there could have been some not great things that happened, with, even when you think of who picked it. Were they forced to do this? There's like a lot of different weird things that could happen. So that's where, like you said, the intuition comes in, and just understanding and respecting what it is that you're doing. That being said, it's very accessible too. It is something that is not hard to use, and we're hoping that this little snippet of information will help people understand it even a little bit more. Of course, if anyone has any other questions, or if there's anything else you'd like to add to that, Jen.
I have one more thing that I want to add, because I think it's really important that we're also grateful.
Right.
We're grateful for the resources that we've been given, and we're grateful for the clearing work that the herbs are doing with us and for us, and the guidance that we receive when we are clearing and we're allowing ourselves to be open to receiving the energy that's coming in and clearing the energy out of our space. It's super, super important to be grateful and stand in a space of gratitude, and offering that gratitude and that blessing back to Mother Earth, where that herb came from, goes a long way in helping with your clearing practice. The other piece of that is, when you clear your space, or when you clear yourself, setting an intention that anything that you cleared out that wasn't for your highest good, so anything that's perceived as negative, you're going to set the intention that you're bringing joy and peace and love and all the happy thoughts back into your system, because otherwise you're leaving yourself wide open for whatever energies to come in that show up in your life next. So anytime that you are clearing something out of your space, you want to make sure that you are filling that back in.
Fill it with good stuff.
Yep. Fill it with all the good
Don't
stuff.
Don't put dirty water in your clean cup.
Yeah. Put chocolate pudding in there instead. Which I don't know how that... Don't put chocolate pudding. Don't
unless you really want it.
Yeah. Unless you really want it.
Sure.
Well, I'm saying all kinds of weird things today.
We both are. It's fine. Well, our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other options for clearing. There's tons of them out there, so we're only going to crack the surface. But tune in for this next one, and we will talk more about other options you have for helping clear yourself and clear your space.
Woohoo! Everybody go get some juicy sage.
There you go.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and check the show description for the links to the show. We would love to hear your thoughts below on this episode, as well as anything that you'd like us to talk about on future episodes. Remember, everybody, you are unique just the way you are, and that is why they call us Woo.